despite the fact that the draft regulation has been agreed by the three institutions, it still has to be adopted. So we'll see in the near future when this will be done, but it's definitely a good step in the right direction.
Hi Nicolas, and thanks for joining Dukascopy TV today. So let's jump straight in. In November, the European Parliament, the European Commission and the European Council reached an agreement on the text of conflict minerals. What does it provide for?
Well, this draft regulation encompasses 4 minerals, the 3 Ts plus gold, and it establishes the compulsory due diligence provisions for importers from the EU. It will be up to the member states to ensure that the implementation is it's done. But it will be up to the Commission to review periodically how the regulation is being implemented and eventually to propose the necessary measures if it considers that the impact that it is required from this regulation, both at the European Union level and at the field, is not being the one that is being sought for.
So can we expect this regulation to guarantee that EU trade in these minerals is done responsibly and it doesn't contribute towards armed conflicts?
Well, that's definitely the purpose of this draft regulation. You have to compare it to the American equivalent, the Frank-Dodd Act. Contrary to that, to the Frank-Dodd Act, which covers exclusively the minerals coming from the Great Lakes region, this draft regulation from the EU covers any conflict area worldwide. So it's, geographically speaking, its scope is bigger. Of course, as every single legal instrument is far from perfect. And I have identified at least a few issues that are being discussed. The first one is the fact that in an effort to ease small importers, it has established several thresholds below which these due diligence provisions do not apply. How much the percentage of the imports will these small importers represent? It's not clear yet. The second one is the fact that the draft regulation allows for the due diligence requirements to be done by a third party, which the critics say that this implies that the responsibility is drafted away from the companies themselves. And the third one would be the fact that it allows, despite the fact that it might enter into force this year, it allows for a 5-year transition period. Which it's supposed to be conceived that way in order to allow the importers to work their way through compliance.
So how does this new regulation contribute to efforts to enhance due diligence, and what can we expect to see next?
Well, again, this is not the single instrument, international instrument of this kind. You have to put it in the framework of multilateral efforts towards due diligence in the mining sector. The most important one is, for example, the Frank-Dodd Act from the US, but you also have to take into account that multilateral efforts are being done mainly in the OECD. They have guidelines for multilateral corporations, and they have a guide for mining from conflict areas. Of course, you also have one of the most important UN instruments in this area, which is the UN Guiding Principles for Business and Human Rights. So it's part of a huge international effort to introduce due diligence in the sector. The thing is that despite the fact that the draft regulation has been agreed by the three institutions, it still has to be adopted. So we'll see in the near future when this will be done, but it's definitely a good step in the right direction.
Nicolas, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. And if you like this video and would like to see more, be sure to stay with us here at Dukascopy TV.